Dr. Ilse Fen pressed her palm against the shattered viewport, watching two alien fleets, sworn enemies for 11 years, lower their weapons at the exact same moment, on the exact same signal, given by no one behind her. Elena Reyes knelt beside a dying Thrall officer who 3 hours earlier had been trying to kill her. "Why?" the officer rasped in broken common. "Would you save me? I gave the order. The station. Your people." Elena didn't answer right away. She pressed a coagulant patch to his wound, with hands that hadn't stopped shaking since the extraction went wrong. "Because the war needed to end," she finally said. "And you needed to be alive to see that it did." He stared at her, uncomprehending, blood on his mandibles. Somewhere behind them, Marcus Webb was screaming something over comms that made Kai Nakamura go pale. None of it made sense yet. Not the dying officer. Not the ceasefire. Not the 12 hours that had turned an unwinnable war into a memory. 7 days earlier, none of this seemed possible at all. 11 years. 42 star systems. 2 governments. The honor-bound Thrall Dominion and the mercantile Koresh Compact, locked in a war that had outlived the reasons either side started it. Humanity watched from the edges until the Koresh Compact bombed a neutral trade station over a mistaken target, killing 11 human colonists and calling it acceptable collateral. Commander Elena Reyes carried the casualty list into Fleet Command like a verdict. "They offered a formal apology," she told Admiral Okonkwo. "A written one. 43 words. You want retaliation. I want the war to stop being profitable for everyone hiding behind it." She placed a folder on his desk. "Ghostwing. 6 operators. I'm not asking you to send them to fight a war. I'm asking you to send them to end one." Okonkwo studied the folder for a long time before he spoke. "You understand what you're proposing has never been attempted. Not against a target this size. I understand it's the only option that doesn't add more names to that list." She had no idea yet how close her own name would come to being added to it. Ghostwing wasn't just 6 operators. It was 6 people who had learned, over years of impossible missions, that the deadliest weapon in any conflict was information nobody wanted spoken aloud. Marcus Webb, demolitions and infiltration. A man who had lost his brother in a border skirmish years before humanity even had a stake in this war, and who had spent every mission since making sure fewer families received the letter his had. He rarely spoke of it. Everyone knew anyway. Priya Anand, linguist and negotiator, fluent in 6 alien dialects, who believed, stubbornly, sometimes to Elena's frustration, that every war ended the same way every war began, with people talking themselves into believing violence was the only language left. Thomas Reyes, sniper, 5 years without a missed shot, carrying a discipline so absolute, his teammates joked he'd calculated the trajectory of his own heartbeat. Few knew he hadn't fired on a living target in over a year, quietly requesting non-lethal loadouts on every mission since a mistake he never discussed. Dr. Ilse Fen, field medic, the team's conscience as much as its healer, the one who had argued hardest against this mission. Not because she doubted it could work, but because she doubted what it would cost the people she'd sworn to keep alive. And Kai Nakamura, systems specialist, 26 years old, the youngest member of Ghost Wing, brilliant enough to walk through enemy networks like open doors, and still young enough to believe, privately, that this mission might actually save the whole war-torn region, instead of just delaying its collapse. "We're not going in to fight," Elena told them aboard the drifting freighter, serving as their staging ground. "We're going in to prove something both governments already know and refuse to admit." She pulled up 2 encrypted files, recovered through months of quiet intelligence work. 18 months ago, diplomats from both sides drafted a peace treaty. Both governments received it. Both buried it, because whoever accepted peace first would look weak to their own people. Silence settled over the team. "You're telling us this war could have ended 18 months ago," Marcus said quietly. "I'm telling you it should have." What none of them knew yet was that someone inside their own chain of command didn't want that truth to ever surface. The infiltration of Thrall Command took 4 hours of surgical precision. Sensors disabled one at a time, guard rotations mapped and avoided, sedative gas calibrated by Ilse's research to leave every guard breathing and unharmed. It was Kai who found the treaty's location, buried under 3 layers of Thrall military encryption. But it was also Kai who found something else, a second file, hidden even deeper, dated 4 days earlier, OR's recent orders, directing a specific unit to intercept and eliminate any attempt to leak the treaty's existence, by any personnel, of any origin. Kai's voice cracked over comms. "Elena, someone already knew we were coming. The mission had a leak, and it wasn't on the Thrall side, The revelation didn't stop them. It changed everything. Elena reworked the plan in real time, splitting the team. Priya and Tomas would carry proof of the treaty to the Koresh fleet through the debris corridor as planned. Marcus and Kai would stay behind, tracing the leak back through Fleet Command's own secure channels. Elena and Ilse would remain at Thrall Command, buying time, watching for the intercept unit Kai's discovery had warned them about. If there's a leak, Ilse said, voice tight, it means someone in Fleet Command wants this war to continue. Or someone's being paid to make sure it does, Elena said grimly. Either way, we finish the mission. The Koresh patrol boat found Priya and Tomas exactly where Kai's warning predicted, not by chance, but by design. Weapons locked. No warning shots this time. Thomas didn't reach for his rifle. He'd stopped trusting violence to solve anything a year ago, and he wasn't about to start now. He opened comms and spoke the words Priya had taught him. The young Koresh captain who answered hesitated. Then, astonishingly, lowered her weapons array. My brother died at Vesselman Ridge, she said quietly. If there's a treaty that could have saved him, I need to see it. She wasn't the only one who'd been waiting, quietly, for someone to give her a reason to stop fighting. Back at Thrall Command, the intercept unit arrived faster than Elena anticipated. Not Thrall soldiers, but a mercenary company, human in origin, wearing no insignia. Private contractors, Ilse breathed, recognizing the armor design from old fleet intelligence briefings. Someone in our own government is funding this. Elena's mind raced through the implications, even as she and Ilse retreated deeper into the station, buying time for Marcus and Kai to finish tracing the leak. 11 years of war meant 11 years of defense contracts, resource extraction deals, political careers built on a conflict that never quite ended. Someone, somewhere in human command, profited from the fighting continuing. The firefight that followed was the only real combat of the mission. Controlled chaos through narrow corridors, Ilse dragging a wounded Thrall officer to cover even as mercenary fire tore through the space where he'd been standing seconds earlier, because her oath to protect life had never once asked what species the life belonged to. It was that choice, saving an enemy officer mid-firefight, that the officer would remember, bleeding out in her arms an hour later, unable to understand why a human soldier would risk her life for his. She hadn't yet realized her act of mercy was about to become the turning point of the entire war. Marcus and Kai traced the leak to its source with 20 minutes to spare, a senior logistics officer on Elena's own fleet staff, quietly receiving payments from a shell corporation, with ties to military contractors, who stood to lose everything the moment peace broke out. Kai transmitted the evidence to Admiral Okonkwo directly, bypassing every compromised channel. The mercenary company's funding vanished within minutes, accounts frozen mid-operation. Without payment or orders, the attack at Thrall Command collapsed as quickly as it began. Elena finished treating the wounded Thrall officer's injuries herself, refusing to leave him even as Ghost Wing's extraction window narrowed to nothing. Your own diplomats wrote that treaty, she told him, echoing Priya's words to the Koresh captain 2 systems away, spoken at nearly the same moment without either of them knowing it. We didn't force this war to end. We made sure the people fighting it could finally see it should have ended already, and that some of the people profiting from it were never on either side to begin with. That was the truth neither government had been ready to face. The enemy they should have feared wasn't each other. 6 months later, the Vesselon armistice was signed aboard a neutral station, the fastest resolution to a decade-long interstellar war in recorded history, and the first in living memory to expose a war profiteering network, spanning 3 governments simultaneously. Elena Reyes stood at the edge of the signing ceremony, watching Thrall and Koresh delegates shake hands for the first time in 11 years. Beside her, the officer she'd saved, now missing an arm, alive because she'd refused to let him die, placed a hand over his chest in the Thrall gesture of debt acknowledged. I don't understand your kind, he admitted. You had every reason to let me die. I gave the order that killed your people. I know, Elena said. That's exactly why I couldn't let the war decide what happened next. Somebody had to. Ghostwing never fired a shot meant to kill. They ended a war not with superior weapons, but with the simple, unbearable act of telling the truth to people who had spent 11 years too afraid to hear it. And by refusing, even under fire, to let cruelty answer cruelty, peace, it turned out, had never been the hard part. Admitting they wanted it was.